we can start. And first of all, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity of this exchange, Professor. Doctor, coach, teacher, author, researcher, how shall we call you? Yes?
No, call me Santi, because I don't like doctor, I don't like professor. I mean, whenever I go to a conference, I mean, people need to call me Santi. I mean, it's quite hard here in the UK because you know that there's this level of formality, but people find it difficult to pronounce Santiago, so I prefer them to call me Santi. So everybody, please address me as Santi.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you all the people present in this Zoom meeting. Thank you for your punctuality. It's been wonderful. And I hope you you have a wonderful experience, and we'll learn a little bit more about the very many things that Santi does. Okay, we'll listen to you.
It's not difficult for you, Janina, to call me Santi because we've known each other for so long.
Yes, we've worked together.
And well, I'm not very good at introducing myself, but well, I come from Argentina, as you can tell by my accent, and I was born in Lobería, which is a small town close to Mar del Plata. And then I studied the English language teacher education course at the University of Mar del Plata. Then I did an MA, a master's degree in Spain, a PhD at the University of Warwick, which I joined back in 2007. And then after working for 1 year at Warwick, I won a competition, well, not competition, it's, well, we call it competition here, but I won a position here at the University of Bath. And 3 years later, my position became a tenure.
What does it mean?
Tenure is when, means that you won't be fired, basically. So, and if you're fired, is because you're breaking any serious, some serious regulations. But it means that you've got, I wouldn't call it a position for life, but if you leave that position, it's your own decision.
Right.
So it's a permanent position here. And I'm an associate professor, which is a senior position within the university. And that means that I've got, my work has implications, not just within my department, but beyond my faculty and the university more broadly.
Great, fantastic. We were interested perhaps in the aspect of ontological coach. How does that connect to your description that you've just made that has to do with university and your studies?
Yeah. Well, when you study for a PhD is a Doctor of Philosophy, but it's not that I'm a philosopher. It's called Doctor of Philosophy because you learned the philosophy of this specific subject area in which you specialize. When you specialize, I mean, when you study for a PhD, you become an expert in ontology and epistemology. So ontology is your position in relation to knowledge. But I became more interested in that because my field of expertise is teacher cognition. So I specialize in the field of cognition, cognitive development, and how our cognitions relate to practice, and at the same time, how practice helps to redefine our cognitions. So ontology is a very important part because it's how you position yourself to life and reality.
Wonderful, great. And what? Well, we have some students prepare some questions. Camila, are you there? If you want to activate your microphone, because Camila was the first one to think of some questions to ask you there. Okay, go ahead.
When I was concentrating on the CENAR, National Center for High Sports for Performance, I saw many Paralympic athletes. It is amazing to see how they develop their sports and how they live there. Do you think that the Paralympic sports is well integrated in Argentina, or do you think that it still needs more development?
Well, thank you for your question, Camila.
Great.
Yes, well, the CENART and ENART are doing a wonderful job. ENART provides funding. Perhaps you don't know, but for all your telephone communications and as part of your telephone taxes, you are deducted 1%, which goes to ENART, and that is to support all I mean, because I come from Argentina, all our athletes. And as part of that, we also support Paralympic athletes. I think a lot of progress has been made, but there's a lot still to be done, especially in terms of how a society, how people see Paralympic players. I gave a talk to people at CENAR, and I was happy to see that they are being more integrated, for example, in the Juegos Evita and in some other national competitions, and also schemes to support sports people to compete overseas. Gustavo is perhaps the most prominent Paralympic athlete at the moment, and he is fully supported by ENARD. They pay for his travels, they pay for his coach, his physical trainer. They don't pay for me, but because I don't live in Argentina, I don't reside in Argentina. But they also pay for accommodation, so that's a huge improvement.
Wonderful, great. Matthias, is Matthias present? Haven't seen him. Monica, Matthias Yangualano? No, haven't seen him yet. Have you? No. Okay, we're waiting for him in case he comes a little bit later. Valen, would you like to ask one of your questions? Valen Mejido?
Yes. Let me see here. What were the biggest difficulties you had to go through to be where you are today?
Wow.
Professionally. Okay. Well, thank you for your question, Valentina. Well, you know, it's tough when you come from Argentina because you are far away from everywhere. So for me, perhaps one of the most difficult challenges is being so far away from home and from family and friends. So when I was, for example, doing my PhD, there were 18 PhD students in my class, and for, I don't know, special holidays or I don't know, or occasions, people had the opportunity to go back home. But it was very difficult, very expensive, and time consuming for me. So that was a challenge for me, and I promised myself that I would never live in the UK. So as soon as my course finished, I would go back to Argentina and enjoy pasteles and choripanes and, you know, dulce de leche. But then the thing is, when I meant to return to Argentina, there were no job opportunities for me. So I applied for positions, and it was very difficult because I had specialized in a field which was not present in Argentina in academia at the moment. So I started applying for positions here in the UK, and you know, and I at some point I was hoping they were not going to select me, but I ended up being selected, and here I am.
And when it comes to the sacrifices, apart from being away from home, in order to be one of the best in your field, how would you perhaps transmit to young people who are about to choose what to do, you know, with their university studies, or what to do once they finish? Because in a year and a half, they are going to be finishing their secondary school. It all looks, success seems to be very simple when we think about just the result. What about the process to get there? What about the road?
Yeah, well, the road is very bumpy, you know, and full of unexpected things. But you know, I'm very positive, and I'm always and I always think that why not me? Okay, so whenever I was applying for the scholarship, I finished my MA and I applied for the scholarship to study for the PhD. And I was sharing this with my colleagues back in Argentina. And they said, oh, well, yes, Santi, okay, you're entertain yourself, you know, filling out applications. Okay, yes. But so nobody was believing that I might have a chance. And a few months later, I actually got a scholarship, and actually got 2 scholarships to study at 2 different universities, which is very unusual. And I ended up, you know, going through the trouble of having to select one. But it's, you need to trust yourself, and you need to be very passionate. This is going to take you to wonderful places. It's very, sometimes the problem with education is that they restrict your vision, and they they don't help you develop your creativity too much. And sometimes you need to be creative when you decide on your future and what you would like to make of yourself. I never thought that I was going to be a mental coach for an elite tennis player, but living in a country like this, where there are no limits and you can do whatever you want, helped me develop a different outlook of life, a different, you know, perspective of who I can become. So be open, be flexible, and be resilient.
Right. Wow, what a word. Yes, resilience. Flor, you had a question. I remember that you also had some questions planned.
Yes. Well, my question is more specific. So we know that you are working with Gustavo Fernandez.
Yeah.
So how do you feel when you see positive results in his life, and when he reaches his objectives in sports and in his life?
Yeah. Well, this is a very good question, Florencia, because you know, you might think that I feel very proud, that I feel, you know, when you work with someone like Gustavo, you have a great opportunity to develop empathy and to gain perspective of life, and to see that results are not winning a Grand Slam or winning a tournament. Results are different in a person like Gustavo. Okay, so he has huge challenges. You know, in the top 20, he's the player with the most severe disability, and he got to just to give you an idea. For example, if you've got if other players have 10 different muscles supporting some sort of movement, he's got 3 or 4. Okay, so in order, for example, to keep balance, he needs to work harder than other players. So whenever he gets, for example, uh, to play in the way he wants by overcoming those difficulties, that is a huge achievement, and that is what we are happy about. And then the results come, you know, by default. After a lot of hard work, the results come. But we never go to a tournament and we say, okay, we want to win the tournament. We want him to do his best and you know, and be happy and enjoy what he's doing.
Wow, yeah, fantastic. Does anybody else have a question that would like to ask Santi? Oh, Mateo. Great.
Well, this is a kind of a more personal question, but almost a half year ago, I had the opportunity to assist to a FCE exam here in Mar del Plata, and I decided that I want to maybe study in another country. So, how difficult emotionally, I mean, it was to you to change your maybe your homeland for a couple of years?
Yeah, that's also a good question. And thank you for sharing your, your experience. I mean, you want to study overseas. I think studying overseas is a great idea because, you know, you develop intercultural awareness and you have the opportunity to interact with other people. You open your mind to many things and you gain perspective on many things in life. The first time I came to the UK was back in 2000. Possibly many of you were not born at the time, and I came for 8 months. And the first couple of nights, I cried myself to sleep because it was very difficult. It was very tough. And even though the UK or Argentina are in Western cultures, they are completely different. So it took me possibly 2 or 3 weeks to get to appreciate what it is, for example, to experience a new culture, to relate to people in a different way. But I had to go through a culture shock until I got used to living in a new place. So if you decide to come to the UK or any other country overseas, there might be a period in which you will need to adapt. And at the beginning, everything is might be fantastic because you say, well, I get to share with, you know, with my family, all my experiences. But then, you know, the culture becomes more challenging and you need to, it's a process in which you need to redefine your identity and understand that your identity is becoming more complex because you are understanding other ways of thinking, other ways of behaving, and other ways of, I don't know, relating.
Great. We have 7 minutes and 40 seconds left. This is before the session is over. Who else would like to ask Santi a question? I don't see all the cameras on. Anybody else? Okay, Juana, great.
It's a simple question, but if do you think that we have to focus our choice on things that we are good at or that we enjoy? Because like 2 weeks ago, we had a talk with a university, and they say that thinking about careers related with things that we are good at, it's better when making the decision. But I don't know, in my opinion, that doesn't have to influence as much because it's more important to choose something that we will enjoy.
Yeah, thank you, Juana, and thank you for sharing your opinion. Yeah, I agree with you because when we when we focus on what we are good at, we are being very simplistic, because the problem is that sometimes we don't know what we are good at. And schools have given us limited opportunities to explore the wide range of things that we might be good at. So if you enjoy what you're good at, well, that's fine. But sometimes you might be good at something, but you don't feel passionate about that. So you need to, I think it's a good opportunity for you to go to the world and try to explore other things, other experiences that the school may not have provided, and try you by yourself identify your strengths and your passion. And there you will have a good starting point, you know, to make a decision about your life.
But it's also interesting and positive is the fact that we are not really deciding perhaps something that might determine the rest of our existence. We can also be flexible enough to change throughout our life, right? I mean, when we think about a career, it's something that we do for some period of time, and it develops skills and makes us grow. But the fact that you have been doing so many different things also gives you the possibility that perhaps you choose something to do in a year and a half, and in 10 years' time, you redefine your career or the approach or the direction. So that is also very, very interesting. And we don't think about that when we are making the choice.
I'll share an experience which might be relevant, because when I finished secondary school, I didn't know how to speak English. You know, I didn't have the opportunity to study English, and to study in an English language teacher education course, you need to have studied English for a long time and to have a high proficiency level. So I started studying English at the age of 19 for the first time. And I went to, there was an entrance examination, which was one in Spanish and the other in English. I went to the Spanish one, I passed that one, that was a compulsory one. But I went to the English language course, and I didn't know even the numbers in English. But I said to the people there, I love languages, and I never had the opportunity to pay for English language classes. And at school, I studied French. And I want to be an English language teacher. And I studied that. And Janina knows my story. And I studied English for 1 year. And after 1 year, I sat for first certificate and I got an A. Okay, that was my passion, and I was not going to let it go. And that shaped my life completely. Imagine if I had focused on my strengths. I mean, I was what they call abanderado at secondary school, and I was good at maths, at chemistry, and many other subjects. But I wanted to be a language teacher, and that's what I did.
Excellent. We just have 2 minutes and a half left, and we don't, bother you anymore in the afternoon in England. I don't know if you're very busy, you might have some other Zoom meetings. Does anybody want to share any thought, or perhaps? Oh, okay, Julieta, there you are.
My question is about all that you just have said, but it was so difficult to you change your language. I mean, started to talk all the time your secondary language there.
Yes, it was. Well, first of all, I mean, Janina, if you want to start a new conversation, I'm happy.
No. Okay, but the thing is that what we have to do is we have to all leave, right? We can do that, and then log in using the same link.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Do you want to try that so we can have an extended period?
Yep.
Yes, shall we try it? Okay. So I'm going to answer. I end the meeting, and then I enter again the same link, and everybody re-enters. right?
Okay, good.
Let's do that. Yeah, because if not, it's going to be a pity.